Welcome back to Middle East in Depth, part of Levant TV's press reviews. A shooting death of at least 12 people at the offices of the satirical newspaper Charlie Hebdo in Paris Wednesday is a black day in France's history and for freedom of expression. The Daily Star in Beirut features an editorial on the tragedy. The article, titled "No Act of Faith," starts saying that while the identity of the attackers behind the horrific attack is as yet unknown, it appears likely from witness accounts that they are Islamist extremists. The paper adds that it is essential that countries across the world urgently realize the necessity of working together to combat this growing threat. Over recent months, similar attacks on a smaller scale have occurred in Canada, Australia, Belgium and France, and come during a time of growing Islamist extremism in the Middle East. And with ISIS continuing along its bloody path of destruction in Iraq and Syria, and Al-Qaeda splinter groups causing havoc not just in the Middle East and North Africa, but also in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Mali and Nigeria. And amid the flow of foreign fighters from Europe to the battlefields of the Middle East, such terror attacks have been somewhat expected, especially after it emerged that the Jewish museum shooter in Brussels had been fighting in Syria. But clearly the security measures taken thus far have been insufficient. The writers add, although the perpetrators may believe they are carrying out such violence in the name of religion, they are actually committing criminal acts which have no grounding in faith. Muslim scholars in France naturally condemned the attacks, as did Saudi Arabia and Qatar. And now we are joined by Muslim activist based in London, Abdullah Al-Andalusi, to touch a little bit on the tragedy. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Pleasure, thank you.
Mr. Andalusi, why are very observant, or so to say, practicing Muslims in Europe intolerant to religious satire or other forms of criticizing Islam?
I wouldn't say people who are religiously observant are intolerant. I would say quite the opposite. People who are not religiously observant, if they were, they wouldn't be perpetrating crimes, for the first thing. But the issue is that people who are motivated by political grievances, by very secular grievances, where I say more material grievances, you'll find is the main cause for the perpetration of these crimes. So I wouldn't say it's intolerance, I would due to religious observance, but rather the opposite.
Is it accepted or acceptable in Islam to criticize the Prophet?
It is acceptable in Islam to intellectually debate and discuss any topic, including the prophethood of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Obviously, Islam draws the line at gratuitous insult of anyone's faith or beliefs, or what matters to them. And in the West, in many countries, they have laws against inciting to hatred or insult against homosexuals or by race. So there are many things in the West which are not allowed under free speech. France itself bans the free expression of one's religion in schools and one's religion in the public.
What do you have to say about that?
Sorry?
What do you have to say about that? The ban?
Well, I'll say that the real threat to free speech or free expression is not a bunch of criminals threatening well-known celebrities or journalists or so on and so forth. This has always been the case. Why celebrities have security is because they've always been under threat from wackos or criminals. The real threat to free speech and free expression in the West, if it exists anymore, is the governments, the laws that exist, especially laws which target minorities. Many Muslims have been arrested. One woman of 6 children was sent to jail for 6 years in England, merely for supporting going to Syria and fighting against Bashar al-Assad. So we have to be very careful about how we portray this. The issue of it's not the issue of free speech is under attack. I think the governments of the Western countries are attacking free speech and attacking free expression, especially of the minority. But of course, no one has the right to go and kill anybody for any reason.
Of course, Brother Abdullah, you mentioned basically harassing minorities in the West here. Now, we do know that on the other side in the Middle East, other minorities are harassed as well, like the Christians in Iraq, for instance, or the Yazidis or so on. So What do you have to say about that?
Well, I condemn all harassment and persecution of any minority in any part of the world. The history of Islam in the Middle East is one where minorities were given autonomy, their own communities, their own courts.
Not nowadays, though, not nowadays.
Yes, well, with the coming of European colonialism and secularism, you saw people dividing into factions and fighting each other over nationalism and all these groups, which are it's a very modern phenomenon, unfortunately. Whereas traditionally, for about 1,300 years of Islamic rule, the Christians, the Jews, the Yazidis lived and prospered in the Islamic lands. So
again,
all
it's
this
the West
tension, all these
basically
problems are very
causing
modern,
a bit
I
of
would
trouble
say Western
there.
imported
Abdullah
problems.
Al-Andalusi, activist, thinker, international speaker and debater, thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for more updates, please visit us on Levant.tv. You could also subscribe to Middle East in Depth on iTunes. Thanks for watching and bye for now.